ideas concerning the one God. They put intermediaries between themselves and God, or they began to conceive and to understand God in terms of the creation around them. And in this way, the basic idea of the one God now got modified and changed. What God did is that He sent prophets to the people around the earth at various times, calling them back to the worship of the one God. Because what happened is that when people put intermediaries between themselves and God, then they began to worship the intermediaries instead of God. And when they began to understand God in terms of His creation, then they began to worship God's creation instead of God. So it was necessary that God sent prophets to call people back to the worship of the one true God, and not to worship His creation or to worship intermediaries between Him and His creation. This was the message of the prophets who came to the people, mankind, down through the ages. Those that are mentioned in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, as well as those which are not. There were many other prophets who were sent to countries and to places that we don't know about today. However, their teachings have remained amongst the people, though it has been changed to some degree. But this is why you find in every religion that there are basic teachings which call people to good. You know, people could say, all the religions, basically, they're all the same in the sense that they all call people to do good things. Don't do these bad things, and do these good things. This is common in all of them. And this is part of the message which was brought by the prophets that came to the people in earlier times. However, the knowledge of who those prophets are has been lost now, and the concept that the people have of God has been distorted, but still the idea that there is one supreme God, one supreme being over all, this has remained in the teachings of all of the various religions. However, it is only in Islam that the teaching concerning the one God remains totally pure. It has not been distorted or changed in any way. It has remained totally pure, in the sense that one God means exactly what it says. One, a God is an object of worship. In Islam, there is only one object of worship. But when you go to all of the other different religions, you will find that they all have in common that though they say there is one supreme being, one true God, ultimately, they all have other gods that they worship. They may consider these other gods to be the one true God also, or to be a manifestation of that God or whatever, but the idea of the one true God now has become modified and changed. When we say in Islam that we believe in one God, we mean one God who is unique in all of His attributes. In the sense that if I say I have one pen, you can have a pen in your pocket too. So I have one pen, but you have one pen. You have one pen. This is not the kind of one that Islam talks about. When Islam talks about one God, it means one of a kind. There are no other gods. There's just one. Unique in all senses. That this God is the creator. Everything besides this God is creation, has been created by the Creator. This God is all-powerful, nothing greater than He. This God is all-knowing. He knows all, and no one knows all but He. This is the one true God that Islam teaches. Now, when we look to understand this in comparison to what other systems hold, we have to understand that when we say one again, we mean one who does not resemble His creation. He's not like his creation. Because once you make God like creation, then you no longer have the one true God. So if you say God gives birth, animals give birth. So when you say God gives birth, or God is born, then you're making God like his creation. Whereas in Islam, the pure teaching, because when we say Islam, we don't mean something which was brought by Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, 1400 years ago and did not exist before. No. We mean what was brought by Adam, what God taught Adam to teach to his descendants, and what he taught all of the prophets. This is Islam. In those teachings, the teachings of Adam, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be on all of them, they taught that God was without beginning, without end. The all-powerful God who was not like his creation. So God, from the Islamic point of view, has no beginning in time. Means he cannot be born. Because if you are born, it means there was a time when you were not. That's what born means. And God had no time when he was not. He always was and always will be. So God is not born, nor does he die. Because if he dies, it means there is a time when he is not. And the creator of the universe, the one who all of the universe depends on, if he dies, then the universe falls apart totally. Because it depends on him. So he is always. For everything to exist, it only exists because God wills that it exists. This is the idea which Islam teaches. I know, probably 95 or 99% of what I've said, you will say, that's what we believe. We agree. So where is the difference? The difference is that in Christianity, it teaches that God became man. In the beginning was the Word. This is John. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. So the Word was God. And the Word became flesh. And it dwelt among men. So God became a man. Now you say to me, isn't God able to do all things? Is he not able to do all things? So if he wants to become a man, he can become a man? Well, I say to you, when we hold our belief that God can do all things, we are talking about all things which justly keep him as God. Things which agree with him being God. We're not talking about things which make him less than God. Because if you're going to say God can do all things, then you can say also, yes, it is conceivable that God could become a mosquito and you could kill that mosquito. No. You don't accept it. Or God could die. No, we said no. Or God could be born. We said no. Because these things, for these things to happen, it means that God becomes less than God. So when we say God can do all things, it means all things with him still being God. All things that a God does, which does not include becoming men, becoming his creation. No, God is the creator. And he, as the creator, creates. Creation is a product of his creation. The creation which exists, this is a product of his action as the creator. So it is inconceivable that God, who is the creator, would become his creation. He turned himself into his creation. No, this is inconceivable. God is the creator. If he is the creator, then he is not the creation. If you say He's the creation, then He's no longer the creator. If you want to say He's the creator and He is the creation, then you've got confusion. This is what you end up with, is confusion. Because then, who is God and who is not God? We don't know. Because if God is created, then you're God, and I'm God, and He's God, and the house is God, everybody's God. This is confusion. This is not what the prophets taught. Prophets taught us to worship God. They didn't teach us to worship ourselves. They didn't teach us to worship human beings, other human beings. And if you go back and look into